Hey guys, G54023. I wanted to talk to you today about a little issue you see an awful lot, especially in gun reviews here on YouTube. Everybody's talking about trigger reset. Some of the reviews that I've seen, say, that doesn't really matter. Trigger reset doesn't matter. Well, actually it kind of does. If you shoot a lot, or if you've been around firearms for any amount of time, you may know what follow-through is. Follow-through is a part of your shooting technique that enables you to set up for the next shot. Well, part of follow-through is trigger reset, and every gun's different. There's so many different handguns and guns in general, semi-automatic handguns, rifles, you name it. And trigger reset is different on pretty much every one of them. And to say trigger reset doesn't really matter is kind of a false statement. You can train yourself to use trigger reset, and especially if you carry a Glock, whether it be a law enforcement application or CCW or military, it doesn't matter. If you have a stock configuration, I can't say for any of the aftermarket parts, but if you run a bone stock Glock, a trigger reset may save your life if you ever have to use your gun and a component of your trigger mechanism were to happen to fail in a Glock. But I've got another video on that, so check that out. As far as just reset in general, it can actually make you or help you become a better shooter. And trigger reset, if you're not familiar with it, is this gun is unloaded. Trigger reset is resetting the trigger without letting it all the way out. Some guns don't reset until they're all the way out. So this Glock, for instance, you have some take up. There's a good half inch of take up there, and then the trigger breaks. The gun cycles. If you keep the trigger trapped to the rear, only distance that you have to move your finger is right there. You hear and feel that click in your finger, and you put rearward pressure, the gun fires, instead of letting it all the way out and then taking up that slack again and then breaking the shot. That trigger travel, though it doesn't seem very far, can allow enough time for human error, as far as you moving your finger that far. You're susceptible to move the sights off target. It takes longer if you're in a competition aspect like I do, and that can make or break a match. The splits between your shots can make or break a match. And if you're trying to get a double tap on a target, the 1/10 of a second could mean life or death, or losing a match, whatever application you want to put it in. What I'm trying to say is that trigger reset is a part of follow through. It's part of proper shooting technique. And if you could take out any kind of variable to get a better shot on target in less time, wouldn't you want to do that, is my question. So we've looked at the Glock 26. It's got a pretty decent reset. It's a little far. It's not bad. Right there. So let's take a look at another aftermarket Glock trigger. This is my Glock 35, no magazine, gun's clear, and this is a much wider trigger. I mean, it's a competition trigger, so there's a lot less take up, and the reset is significantly shorter. Try to get the lighting good here. I mean, this is a phenomenal trigger. If you haven't ever felt a fulcrum trigger in a Glock, I highly recommend them. So there you have an aftermarket Glock trigger. You know, that's set up for competition. It's fairly light. It's around 3 pounds. So I really wouldn't recommend this trigger for concealed carry. I mean, it's way too light. But Walther, everybody has just praised Walther for the PPQ, and I have to agree. This is one of the best polymer handguns on the market, if you ask me. This is a phenomenal pistol. I absolutely have fallen in love with this thing. And no magazine, gun's safe. You know, there is a significant take-up. So there's a lot of pre-travel. But then, man, the trigger breaks so clean. And if you work reset, right there. It's so short, guys. And I'm doing that with my offhand. I'm a right-handed shooter. I'm doing this with my left hand. And it's so simple to train your finger. You know, granted, if you shoot a lot of different guns like I do, it takes a little getting used to once you first start shooting, but you can really get a feel for it if you're subconsciously feeling for that reset. You know, I can really run this gun well for me. You know, I'm not saying this is the best handgun ever made. It's the best handgun made for me. So take that for what it's worth. But this does have a phenomenal trigger. This has a 4.5 to 5 pound trigger, but it feels a lot like my Glock 35 here. And the Fulcrum trigger kit is a $160 some upgrade to a Glock, which this is bone stock from the factory. I have not touched this thing. So getting back on track, trigger reset is a huge part of your shooting fundamentals and a big part of trigger control. So if you're taking up all of this pre-travel every shot, just look at how far and how much human error is potentially being put into your trigger press, into your follow through when you're coming back on target. If you're pulling all the way through that on target instead of bang, click, bang, I mean, you can see the benefits of it. So to say that trigger reset doesn't really matter, it's pretty much a false statement, guys. If you can, you know, dry practice. Dry practice is a awesome way to get the feel for a gun, especially if you're going to be carrying it. You want to know that gun inside and out. So if you can feel your trigger reset and know where it's at, you're probably more likely to get follow-up rounds on target, as long as you practice good shooting fundamentals. And part of good shooting fundamentals is follow-through. Part of follow-through is trigger reset. So that's all for this video, guys. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask me in the comment section below, or state your mind on trigger reset. Try to keep it civil. With that being said, have fun, be safe, guys. Live in yellow. Thanks.